Greetings and salutations, my name is JW608, and today I'm talking about stamps. Alright, so you have your stamp tongs, you have your magnifying glass, and you have a pile of stamps. Now what? Well, probably need to sort them and put them somewhere. Well, where do we put them? Remember rule number one, stamp collecting, is learn how to store your stamps in a way that will not damage them. Well, let's get started talking about that. Alright. Back to our desk cam. That's way overexposed, but that's because this camera hates paper. Why are you using it to film stamps? Because I'm not very smart. Anyway, now the old-fashioned way was one of these. Oh, that's filthy. This is an old stamp album. It is a worldwide Harris Explorer. Spaces for thousands of stamps, countless beautiful illustrations. And when we crack this thing open, let's see, here's a page with lots of, there we go. You got the country there, and you got a place for a flag of the country, because these originally came with, this map on the back. Oh, here we go. This one actually still has one in the back. Has, the sheet of Cinderellas. Cinderellas? Well, we'll talk about those later. Cinderellas are stamps that aren't really stamps. It's either stamps, but they're not really stamps. These are... Oh, there's not the flags. Oh, this one doesn't have the flags in it. Oh. Oh, there's Austria's coat of arms. This one's the coat of arms. Huh. So we're missing part of this album. I don't even know where this one came from. Anyway, but it gave you a nice black and white illustration. You go through, hey, I have that stamp, and you go get it and you mount it in your album. How'd you do that? Well, you could lick it and stick it on there. I've seen that done. You can glue it in, which that violates rule number one. Licking and sticking, that's not ideal, but you probably get away with it if you don't mind tearing apart a book if you want to extract it later. Kind of cool stamps. Anyway, so I have a example of some stamp pages from an album that have already been stamped. Let's see here. These are from Germany. See, they got the coat of arms and the flag. And these are loose pages. I'm assuming they were additions to a collection, and there you go. Oh, the Germanias. Germanias are actually ones I collect. So I know I don't have them in this album because I don't like stamp albums. Let's see, where is the page on this side? Yeah, there we go. Here are some of the hyperinflations. Notice it was 30 Pfennig, but now it is 8,000 Pfennig. Well, like, probably like marks. Anyway, that's during a time in German history that had horrible inflation between the world wars. And let's see if they, they did. All right, so they've hinged these stamps. And there's a little piece of paper, see it there? Oh, you're touching the stamp. Yeah. There's the little hinge there that mounts it to the album, and that keeps it in here without it flopping all over. And let's see, do you got more of them? That looks like no, that's not a complete set. Never mind. Let's see here. There we go. There's Hindenburg, the namesake of the Zeppelin. Oh, hello. No, that's it. No, that doesn't feel hinged. Oh, oops. Yep, that was hinged. Sometimes after 40 or 50 years, these hinges lose their stickiness or become brittle, and they break off. Now, I don't know if you can see that in this light, but when I popped that stamp off, it left right there what we call a hinge mark. It is the remnants of the hinge. We will talk more about hinge marks in a later day. When we talk about conditions of stamps, we'll talk about hinges and hinge marks and all that good stuff that came from there. Stick that there and pretend nothing happened. And this actually decreases the value of a unused stamp, because lots of modern collectors want, not collectors of modern stamps, but collectors who live in the modern times, want unused stamps that have not been hinged. So let's go back to this, is an unused stamp, but it's been hinged, so a chunk of the gum is going to be gone off the back. So if you find one, actually this is a horrible example, but if you find a stamp that is unused without the hinge, they're typically worth more. This stamp is an example of one that is worth more canceled, because someone paid 8,000 marks, or Finnick, probably marks at this point, to send this letter, or to use this stamp. They probably actually spent more to send the letter. So lots of these became wallpaper and all that good stuff because they were worthless. There we go. Better look at the hinge. Now, I personally, I don't like hinges because the stamps are all floppy and flopping about and exposed to the elements, and they rub up against the other page, and I don't like hinges. So, well, what do we do if we want an album but we don't want hinges? Well, here's another page. Actually, unironically, because I do collect German stamps, early German Empire. Here are more hyperinflation stamps. See, is it 100,000? That's a whole bunch of marks. And these are not hinged, but they're actually in this little plastic sleeve with what there are behind them. Oh, this one gives the text. The color is brown-green. Brown and green. Is that brown? I don't know if I'd call that one brown. Oh, that one's used. So if that was actually a really used one, that would be worth more than this one. And now, these stamps, you have to get them certified. We'll talk about that later. Because it's really easy to fake a cancellation. So you really need a cert or certificate even, with a used hyperinflation stamp for it to be worth anything. And these are printed in the billions, so they're not worth particularly much. Anyway, so that's another a Hingeless album, they call these. And this is one style of Hingeless album that has, some of them have actually, this one has a couple of the pretty colors, the pretty printings, but the rest are just the boring text of the variation of that one. And you put the stamp in the corresponding plastic sleeve. Well, that's one way to do that. And another album choice, this one is not it's a folio, it's a tiny album. They use mounts. Oh, no, this is a cover. This actually looks like a first day cover. Side note, first day cover for the Canal Zone, 13 cents. This was the date and place the stamp was first issued. They usually have a ceremony at the issuing of a stamp, and the Balboa Canal Zone was where the ceremony was held when this stamp was issued, and it needed another stamp to make it legal postage because apparently 15 cents was going rate. And they do up a pretty envelope and well, we call it a cover because envelope's harder to spell, I guess. But it's a first day cover, and see it has this plastic holder here. And then we come to this side and we see actually a Panama stamp from Panama, and it is in this little plastic sleeve mounted on the page. It's actually mounted on the page here. These are called mounts. See, there's a description for it, and there's this plastic cover, and you flip it up, and there's the stamp in the mount. There you go. So that is another way to store stamps. Now, you may be asking, well, can I get some of these hinges and mounts? Sure, you get hinges. Hinges, there you go. There's 1,000 of them for, well, this was free. Somebody gave these to me. I don't particularly care for hinges, but I want to have them. I've never actually, oh, these came pre-folded. See, they're just little pieces of gum. The gum that's the adhesive on the back of the stamp. That pre-folded. In fact, let's hinge a stamp and show you how it's done. Or at least how I do it. Well, I don't, because I don't like hinges. All right, well, come on, computer. Come on, little camera. There we go. Adjust our focus. Nope, we're gonna have to adjust that back because I'm gonna do this on a white piece of paper. There. All right. So we got our hinge that looks invisible there. And let's grab us a stamp. Where is pile of used stamps? Oh, Uncle Sam, you're going to get hinged today. I have is a little tray of water. It's a little, actually, I think this was like a tartar sauce or ketchup or something came in there. And I have a Q-tip. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One way would be flip the stamp, because you always want to hinge it on the back. Make sure it's facing the right way. Take your hinge. You can lick them if you so desire, but I do not. Wet your Q-tip or finger. Some people use their fingers. And just and stick it on there. Where the hair of my Q-tip go with? This is the dry end I'm using to press down to give it pressure. There we go. Then you come right around, wet her again. Hit the wet side, or that side. Then grab it. Grab it. Oh, it's curling. It's curling. Don't curl. Oh, no. You're not an Olympic sport played on ice. Stop curling. And then maneuver it and jam it down on the paper. And make sure it's crooked. Oh, also make sure your hinge has flipped all the way around and has glued itself to... Yeah, I don't use hinges. But that's basically how it works. Just do it better than I did. They're finicky, and they can damage the stamp in some cases. I don't like hinges. Now, what I do like are mounts. Here we have a couple packs of mounts. I got these from Mystic. Mystic has a really neat tool. If you go find the stamp you're looking for, it has a link to the right size mount. So there we go, a couple mounts. How to mount stamp. Oh, they even have instructions on the back. Alright, so let's see here. Let's see the mount, the anatomy of the mount. It is a piece of plastic with some more plastic. Now these are all acid-free archival quality. The back here is the gum. So take your water and just do a line there. Flip it back around, find the place in your album or stamp page that you want it, and it's done. It's in there. It doesn't move. Now, to actually get your stamp in there, let's move my water before I spill it all over everything. Let's see. Oh, George, will you fit? Oh, George will fit. All right, so this is a 210 George Washington stamp from 18 something or another. I think the 19. It's an old stamp. So what you do is you kind of grab it, pull it back, take the stamp. This can be really finicky. Take the stamp, jam it up in there. Don't jam it up in there, you know what I mean. And use your tongs to kind of guide it in. Make sure that doesn't do there. And this hinge is a little big for this stamp, but that's the basic idea. And now you can have this hinge. It's a mount. This mount is here, and it's, for me, it's easier than hinges because that was horrible. It twisted in on itself. And you can reuse them. If I wanted to pull this up, it would probably actually soak it off, but since the gum's not quite dry yet, just pull it up. And I can do another line of water here, here, or here. So they are reusable. So when I do something like this, I like to use mounts more, although there are better solutions, in my opinion, to mounts. Well, not in every case. All right, so let's take a look at some of these different solutions. There we go. A Vario professional pack. This is the big pack I got on Amazon, the 25 of these things. They are stock sheets. Basically stock sheets here. Let's pull one out that I already have prepared. In fact, this is part of my Germania collection. I have written here what they are. The 1900 Germania A11 is the design. I said the perf, their Scott number 52 through 61, the page in the catalog, and a note to myself. These are the ones that say Reich Post, because these down here, this series says Deutschreich. So what I've done is I have adjusted my there we go, adjust my exposure so we can actually see and read them, is I put the stamp, and I put a piece of paper telling me the Scott number and the color and the denomination. Whee! See, I'm not hurting that stamp because it has a sheet of plastic. Isn't that neat? Sheet of plastic there protecting it. And it's on both sides. You can get them with a clear middle and only one-sided, so when you flip it to the back, you can see the back of the stamps. But I don't really need to see the backs of these because I know what the back of a stamp looks like. Now that comes in more important when you're talking about, oh, sorry, I left my exposure thing up. So it comes more important when you're talking about stamps that have something on the back of importance. Like some American stamps actually have writing on the back telling more about the stamp. Others have to make sure hinges or to look at the uniqueness in the gum or something like that. But there we go. And you can use these by taking your stamp tongs. Queen Lizzie here is going to join Germania. Germania is a personification of Germany, based off an opera singer? Anyway, so what I like to do, don't just grab them and jam them in there. That's a way to catch a perf. The little tabs there. So a way to catch a perf and slice your stamp in half. What I do is I grab it and pull it open and slide her under. There we go. And now Queen Lizzie's in there and safe. And similar operation, slide under the plastic, grab the stamp and pull it out. The bulk of my collection are in these. I love these things. You can get them on Amazon. In fact, if I remember, I'll put a link in the description. I probably won't remember. Just type in Lighthouse or Vario stock sheets, and they come in different sizes. This one is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an 8 because it has 8 pockets. The page has been divided into 8 pockets. You can get them with 1 pocket or 2 pockets. 6 is another one. 6, you can get the big chunky stamps. I use the 2 pockets for first day covers or miniature sheets. The ones for larger sheets. Although I need a better solution for storing full sheets of stamps, big ones. Oh, here, I even drew the watermark. We'll talk about watermarks eventually. Oh, I still left my camera up. Sorry about that. Probably annoying someone. Anyway, and this is my favorite solution, using these plastic stock pages. But it's not the last solution we're going to talk about today. Neither is this. But this is a stock book. Let me clear some of this junk off my table. What's a stock book? Well, it is a book. It is cardboard and has these, I guess they're glassine, sort of like wax paper inserts so the stamps don't rub against other stamps on the next page. This page was originally my Germania collection, but I moved them to the Vario sheets. No, it's not. I have the thing upside down. Oh, now pain with these is making sure all these inserts are properly closed before you close the book, otherwise they get all crunched and crinkled. There we go. Stripe on the front tells me it's the front. Ooh, cleared the camera. There we go. Ah, here we go. Here are, how many times can I say here we go? One of my favorite stamps, Flag Over Porch. Those are all different stamps. Those are not the same stamp. What? We'll talk about that later. Varieties and all that jazz. Let's see. Turning the page. Here's some more Germanias. They have overprints. And here's a couple more German, early German. Let's see. Did I have anything else fun in here? Mostly German stamps. Lots of German stamps. Hyperinflations. Oh, the postal horns. Oh, on this page. Of course it's on this page. Here I have Statue of Liberty stamps. U.S. Statue of Liberty stamps. Right, there's the guy who made the Statue of Liberty. Now what these are, they are cardboard. And they have little plastic pockets. It's sort of like the other. I pull them up and slide a stamp in. But they're half exposed, so it's easier to grab them out and all that good stuff. And you can catch a perf on those and mess up your stamp and your plastic. And don't pull, when I say pull it out, I mean lift it gently. And don't just pull it out, you'll rip it off the page. Oh, and here, on this page over here, these are my Alice in Wonderland. The Maldives, the US. I even have a, oh, it's not going to fit. There we go. I even have this huge page with a single stamp from Granada. All right. And if you, as you can see, you can just tuck that into one and it can go across several. It won't damage the stamp too much. But I do have this one. There we go. And it tucked in the bottom to give me more room. Yeah, my Alice in Wonderland needs to grow. There's a beautiful set of American UK Alice in Wonderland I'd like to pick up. Oh, cool! I forgot this was in here. That is the very first Christmas stamp from Canada. See, Christmas, 1898. I can't read that. And it shows the Empire, the British Empire there. All right. That's just of note. That's the first. That's why it's in the stock book. The stock book is I reserve things that have special interest to me in here. Personal interests, like my hyperinflation stamps. And Germania was in there, but I moved her out to because I wanted to use her for more for reference so I could finish my collection. But that's not all. If you don't want to store them in there, we got these guys. That's called a 201 card or a dealer card. And there's, oh, wrong button. There we go. Let's darken that a bit. There we go. And it is basically a piece of cardboard, but it's archival free, acid free, all that good stuff with a piece of plastic. You lose your stamp tongs. Where's my stamp tongs? Oh, there they are. Stock book. Then Lizzie slides in here. There we go. Probably put it upright. And they're called a dealer card because this is typically what dealers have. They'll have boxes or drawers of thousands of these lined up together, and you flip through them and say, oh, I want this one, and it is a price and catalog price, and their price will almost always be lower than catalog price unless they're like a really, really bad stamp dealer. So that's another way for storage. I wouldn't recommend long-term storage for that. If you want to do long-term storage, get you one of these. This is a glassine envelope. It's sort of like wax paper, but not quite. And it's just a little envelope. It's archival, safe, and all that jazz. Oh, they do yellow over time and become a little brittle, but they keep the stamp safe and semi-water resistant, so it'll protect your stamps. So these are all wonderful ways of storing your stamps. But what about storing your stamps? Well, oh, wonderful. I don't like Hinges, but where should you store your stamps? Well, don't store them in the attic or the basement. You want a place that is fairly dry. You avoid the temperature swings and all that good stuff. Somewhere that's not too humid, not too dry. Well, dry is probably a good thing. Keep it away from things that like to eat stamps, like cockroaches and silverfish, or hungry children. A bad place to store it would be like the attic, your shed, the basement, a mud wrestling ring, anything like that. You don't want to. That's a bad place to store your stamps. Me, I have my stamps on a bookcase within my house in my living area. So if it's comfortable for me, it is probably comfortable for the stamp. So that's my general rule of thumb. Horror story. One of the very first stamp show I went to. Oh, come on. There we go. A feller came in with this huge stamp collection, albums upon albums upon albums, and came in and said, Grandpa died and we found these in the attic. What's it worth? And I was there and I heard the dealer look through and said, you found them where? Oh no, they were water damaged. They said, no, we aren't even gonna look at them. It was kind of sad. Although later I did see another collector in the parking lot with the guy talking, and looked like he was cherry picking the collection, looking for survivors. But yeah, don't keep your stamps in the attic. Keep them safe. They're a valuable investment, valuable money wise, investment money wise, but also in your own personal time, interest, and even a heirloom, if you will, that can be passed from generation to generation. And also just little pieces of history. All right. So hopefully today we've learned better how to store our stamps, where to store them, and that helps us fulfill the first and only rule of stamp collecting: learn how to store your stamps in a way that won't damage them. Storing them in the fireplace is not really a good place, although it will make my stamps more valuable if you destroy yours because there are fewer. Huh. Anyway, I have been JW608, and this has been Storing Stamps. And I need a better outro.